Labels and misinformation. It seems like most of the mainstream media has a problem with labeling people, labeling entire groups of people, and providing misinformation. Fox is going to do a clip on what they call the entire DNC disrespecting our military and our veterans. That couldn't be further from the truth. Last night, there were several speakers that were representing the military positions and giving respect to the military. In one particular case, there was a moment of silence, and some people within the convention yelled out the words "Black Lives Matter." Now, I'm going to play this video for this guy, Pete Hegseth, who is a veteran that Fox found that espouses their viewpoint. And I'm going to try to break down the fallacies of his statements.
Heroes heckled on stage as the words "No More War" are chanted, while retired four-star General John Allen and Medal of Honor recipient Florent Groberg took to the stage last night to endorse Hillary Clinton. Listen.
And the American military will continue to be the shining example of America at our very best.
What must the...
Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I saw that segment. I didn't do a separate video on his speech. And I just want to let you know, I think that he was over the top with what he was saying. Now, he's a four-star general. And, you know, he is the way he is. And be honest with you, I absolutely expected him to go over the top. And I really didn't have that much of a problem with it because I recognize his mindset and where he's coming from. Now, at the same time, there were a bunch of protesters that were centered primarily in the delegations from Colorado and then California, and then the Bernie Sanders people, some of them, not all of them, picked up the chant "No More War." And that's not the first time that they did that chant. They did that when Leon Panetta was speaking last night. And as usual, when that went down, the crowd basically overwhelmed them, as the crowd did last night when this general spoke. So yeah, there were some people in there that did do that, but the overwhelming majority of the people at the convention did not chant. And as a matter of fact, they supported this general and the other military people that spoke. So for them to portray the DNC as being disrespectful, no, that's not true. There were some people that were there that were disrespectful. I will agree with that statement, but that's about it.
Maybe fake news is on stage. Here to react is Fox News contributor, U.S. Army vet Pete Hegseth. Pete?
If they were there for all 4 days, they saw the true core of the Democrat Party, not just in those chants, but in the focus and priority of this convention. Anti-military, anti-war, not that anyone's pro-war, but anti-war in a 60s sense. Anti-police, pro-abortion, anti-America, across the board.
Okay, see, now this guy's throwing bullshit out. They were not anti-police. As a matter of fact, they were pro-police. They were very supportive of the police. Okay? Every time a person that represented the police came up to speak, the overwhelming majority of the convention was very supportive. And again, I will be more than happy to acknowledge that you had a few people in there that were not supportive of the people that were supporting law enforcement. More than happy to acknowledge that. But for you to try to paint the picture that the entire DNC was anti-police, that's a bunch of bullshit, and you know it, okay? But unfortunately, your core viewers are going to eat this up, okay? And now, as far as the abortion issue is concerned, abortion, Roe v. Wade is the law of the land. So if you're going to say that the people were anti-abortion, basically you're saying that they should have been basically not supporting Roe v. Wade. Okay, but anyway, that's a minor issue because the abortion issue, Planned Parenthood came up very infrequently. But the police issue, supporting the police and supporting the military, that came up in high profile time slots. So let's just stay with that. The crowd was not anti-military. You did have an anti-war segment within the crowd, and specifically it was in Colorado and California. That's where it started. And again, some of the Bernie supporters did pick it up, but they were quickly quieted, okay? The overwhelming crowd sentiment was to support our military and to support our police. Let's continue.
Core has been exposed. The Democrat Party had a choice, either after the 60s, be the party of JFK or Jim Webb, hawkish pro-America Democrats. They've chosen to be the party of John Kerry, who threw his medals into the river, of Jane Fonda. That is the modern Democrat Party. All the seeds come from Vietnam. It's not just anti-war, it's then...
Okay, so basically you're saying that we should have been in Vietnam. And history is coming down on the other side, my friend. Vietnam was America's attempt at imperialism in Southeast Asia. It was wrong. History has told us that it was wrong. We were stupid to get into Vietnam in the first place. When the French got their asses kicked and they left Vietnam, we got sucked in like stupid asses into a situation that was a no-win scenario. A guerrilla war, which is basically what the Vietnam War was, will almost always be won by the home team versus the people that are coming in from the outside. If you didn't learn anything from history, guess what? The Revolutionary War was more of a guerrilla war than anything else. We won. We were the guerrillas back then. So, in closing on this part of the video, Vietnam was wrong. The people that were protesting against the Vietnam War were right. And you are sounding like you don't know your ass from a hole in the ground.
Anti-military at the bottom. And when you look at the record of Obama, how could they be for what he has given us, chopping our military and retreating on the battlefield?
You know what's interesting is that people say, well, Donald Trump says the military is a disaster. What do you say? And then and they come back and say, no, we have the best military in the world. Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. I think you're splitting the difference. We are the #1 military in the world, but we don't judge ourselves against other countries.
That's right.
We judge ourselves against our particular...
It's not a comparative standard. What they've done to it is gut it. And General Allen gave a good speech, but he spent a good chunk of it talking about how tolerant and inclusive our military is, transgendered, now able to serve. That's all. That's such a distraction from what we really need to do to defeat
that's
ISIS.
his audience.
Of course that's his audience. That's what he has to say in order to get them to appeal to what he has to say. Rather than, this is what we will do to utterly crush and defeat ISIS, which I've talked to delegates on the floor, just not a priority for them. The biggest threat they think we have in this nation is climate change. You want to contrast it seriously, Brian. Donald Trump wants to defeat ISIS. Hillary Clinton wants to defeat the weather. That is what the contrast is in this election.
Because the Secretary of State just said that to a climate change committee that was coming up with these conclusions. Says you're doing work that's just as important as those fighting ISIS. Now,
Okay, let's see. The military, okay, has indicated that the number one biggest threat to national security is climate change. That's the military talking. That's the Department of Defense talking. Okay, so again, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, ISIS is a problem. No ifs, ands, or buts. And we're going to have to do something about it. Okay, but ISIS is not going to be here forever. Okay, especially if we can take the proper action in order to basically get rid of them. Climate change is basically, you can call it an invisible enemy. You can't defeat climate change with troops and bombs and anything else. Okay, you have to defeat climate change by taking action in order to help our environment. So that's the long game. That's not a game that I'm going to be in, you know, probably 20, 30 years from now, but my kids will be in that game. My grandkids will be in that game. ISIS, sooner or later, the people in the region are going to get together and they're going to get rid of them. Okay, it's just like anything else. They'll get tired. They'll run out of money. They'll be tired of being killed, and sooner or later, you know, the Muslims in the area, obviously, I believe, will come together and basically get rid of them. There's more than likely probably going to be acts of terror from now until, okay? It could be foreign jihadist terrorists. It could be homegrown domestic terrorists like Dylan Roof. There's going to be acts of terror, okay? Deal with it. But as far as climate change and what's going to happen to this planet, that's a whole nother different story. In more than likely 10 to 15 years, the city of Miami is going to be more than likely underwater. New Orleans is probably going to have issues of the same nature. We need to act on those things now. Anyway, I digress. This guy, you know, he's just one of those gung-ho guys that's taken a position that basically has no backing. Now let's move on to the next section that he goes into.
A lot of people say there's a difference between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, where President Obama, his policies obviously have been ineffective. He never should have pulled out of Iraq. Afghanistan never worked. The surge wasn't effective.
Why do they always say he should have never pulled out of Iraq? He had no choice. Bush was the one that negotiated that pullout in Iraq, but there was no status of forces agreement that Iraq would accept, and we were not going to leave our soldiers without protections. So that's it in a nutshell. So you could talk about pulling out of Iraq all you want, but Bush was the one that called the shot as far as when we were going to pull out of Iraq. It was just a question of leaving forces behind or not. And God forbid that we didn't have that status of forces agreement. We left forces over there, something went down, and our soldiers got snatched up and tried in their courts. Then the American people would have been screaming blue murder that we weren't protecting our soldiers. No, Obama did the right thing on that, and I'm just sorry, we're going to have to agree to disagree.
They're down to a shell number of people that are basically targets in Afghanistan. Syria, 400,000 people dead. Well, Hillary Clinton will be different. Really? Did you hear her describe in her speech how we're going to take on ISIS? Bombing from the sky, local forces on the ground. That is the current policy, and it is not working.
Of course,
it's not working because the Muslim countries haven't gotten together and decided that they finally want to get rid of ISIS themselves. And as far as the bombing is concerned, yeah, we are doing the bombing, but I guess you haven't checked with the American people lately, because the American people do not want boots on the ground. They don't want it, and they won't accept it. It's over there. They believe that the Muslim countries need to put skin in the game, i.e. their own boots on the ground, and we will support them. And that really is the way to go.
Bear hugged Barack Obama. She was a part of making those policies from Iraq, as you said, to Syria, to Libya. You didn't even mention the disaster that was our intervention in Libya, which she won't talk about at all. And she also wants the same borderless world that Barack Obama is giving us. Again, a massive contrast between Trump and Clinton.
The #1 terror nation is Iran. She bragged last night that we got rid of nuclear weapons in Iran without firing a shot. Do we know? We know in writing within 10 years they have an opportunity to reconstitute their nuclear program. Our belief is that they'll like being such a great member of the world community that they won't do it.
Well, because
and we're not inspecting their sites. UN inspectors are doing that.
Because they're...
I don't give a damn who's inspecting the sites as long as the sites are being inspected. And yeah, we are not involved in another war in Iran thanks to Hillary Clinton. They have dismantled and are in the process of continuing to dismantle their nuclear weapons facilities. Not one single American person has lost his life. Not one shot needed to be fired. It's called diplomacy, my friend. Now, what you guys are looking for is some kind of a guarantee that they will never get a nuclear weapon. Well, that just ain't happening. That's not happening. That's unrealistic. You have to deal with the situation as it stands now, okay? Yes, you can make preparations for the future, and that's what that agreement laid the groundwork for. And yes, it does have a sunset date, which I believe is approximately 10 years. But as you're approaching those 10 years, you have to take a look at what's going on at that time before the 10-year period of the agreement expires, and then start working again. But for right now, Iran has begun to dismantle its nuclear facilities that were weapons capable, and we and the region is safer.
Theology of death to America no longer matters to them anymore.
It hasn't changed.
These are not the drones you're looking for as their strategy. If these nuclear weapons will not come back. Of course they want them. They've got the billions they wanted out of the deal. They're still violating the missile aspects of the treaty, and there's a timeline on it. They're playing the long game in Tehran, and Hillary Clinton wants to score political points. And as a result, America is less safe. Hillary Clinton is an...
How can you say America is less safe right now? Statement could be, in the future, America will be less safe, but right now, America is more safe, and we're not at war.
Extension of the failed Barack Obama foreign policy.
Well, that Medal of Honor recipient and that general have served their country in sensational fashion, but their choice, they have to be wondering, did I make the right choice? As that audience shows, right. They were not welcome. Pete Rose, welcome. Thanks so much. Great job in Cleveland as well as Philadelphia. All right, coming up.
Like I said, Fox can always find somebody that will espouse their position. Unfortunately, I have a different opinion about the situation. Now, there's one thing that I didn't show, and that was when a mother of a deceased soldier called for a moment of silence. Fox showed, and let me see if I can find it. All right, this is one of the clips that Fox showed where this veteran who has sacrificed, that some of the people, and again, I'm telling you exactly where it came out of Colorado, and some of the people in the California delegation that were shouting, "No more war." Let me play this particular clip.
America lost 4 heroes that day. Command Sergeant Major Griffin, Major Gray, Major Kennedy, and Foreign Service Area Officer Reggae Abdel Fattah.
Okay. Now, yes, you could hear people, barely you could hear them chanting "No more war." Now, I don't know if he could hear it where he was because of the acoustics in the arena, but you know, the majority of the people were basically talking amongst themselves and being quiet. So for Fox to purport that the DNC was